Hi guys, Ray here from City Fan TV, and I'm joined by our transfer expert Bernard Deneen from the Citizen channel. He knows, whatever he doesn't know about European transfer business ain't worth knowing. How you doing, Bernard? You having a good day?
Oh, I'm going to embarrass myself now, answer by total lack of knowledge. But no, I'm having a wonderful day, mate. Yes, it's
good
January. We do lots of business, as you know, so we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're talking about transfers, and I've not done a video on the 1st or the 2nd of January, even though the transfer window is open, because there's no point. There's generally no point. City do not do transfer business in January. From my recollection, in terms of major players that we bought, kids is different, but major players that we bought, it's already Emerick Laporte, and that was in January 2018 when we were Centurions. And the reasons for buying, we don't buy in January because the price usually isn't right. We've not factored into buying January, and it takes time for someone to wants to join City to fit in. It takes time. They've missed the preseason. What's the point? Now, Emerick Laporte was a different kettle of fish because we'd wanted him a year previously. He'd got injured, and we still wanted him in the summer, I think. And he said no. Now, generally, when someone says no to Pep, he don't go back. We couldn't get Messi that first time. We didn't go back for Messi. You can do one, Messi. Okay, if Jude Bellingham wants to come to City, he can do one. Declan Rice wants to come to City now, he can do one. No, it's true. Once you snub us, Pep ain't coming back for you. But Emerick Laporte was different because of his injury. Now, he can't say it wasn't a snub. He basically said, I'm not fit enough. I want to get back to playing my best, and then I'm interested in the move. And that, I think we respected his decision, and we respected him, and we brought him in. He didn't play that many league games. I think he played 9 or 11 league games in the second half of the season. So he wasn't a mainstay, but Ferran Soriano or Chico Begueristan and Pep believed he had the mental capacity, the right mentality to be able to fit in and to be able to hit the ground running. And he pretty much did when he played for City. So that's the reason we don't take on too many, we don't buy players in January. Now, look, guys, there's plenty of stuff out there if you want to go and look for YouTube videos on transfer talk. But it's, with all due respect, it's a lot of crap. Most of the stuff is just made up, and I'm not going to go through individuals who have been tripped up for allegedly making stuff up, but people have questioned the veracity of some of the comments. I won't mention the name, but the fellow that said, the fellow that needs a comb, you know who I'm talking about, don't you? He said, yes, Phillips
helps us out, mate, doesn't it?
That said that Bayern Munich were interested in Calvin Phillips, and City were going to get Kimmich for 20 million quid in January, or free in the summer because his contract was running out. And someone said, actually, his contract runs out a year later, so we can't sign a pre-contract agreement in January. You're just making it up. And anyway, we're not going to go down that. We're going to look at a little bit one player that Joshua Kimmich. I think he is of interest to me. I looked at him last year when I did it in the summer, when I looked at midfielders that when we knew Gundogan was going, when we needed a new midfielder, and I looked at him, and we looked at Wirtz and a couple of others. But we're going to look at obviously Calvin Phillips because there's a good chance he's going. And where we think we need somebody, if we're going to go for somebody in January, where we need them. And then we're going to have a quick look at Joshua Kimmich. We could do that all in 3 separate videos. We just give you quality, guys. Going to give you quality and quantity. And that's why Bernard's here. So we'll start off with Calvin Phillips. What's going wrong for Calvin at City, Bernard?
It's very odd. I mean, Pep makes mistakes. Of course he does. Have we seen any hint in any game? He's not. The thing is with Calvin Phillips, I mean, he never really played that much.
No.
Actually, and he came at the time when Pep really wanted his tried and trusted. So it wasn't the greatest time in the world for him to come and do a job. And of course, when you're going for trophies and you're going for the big ones, and your defensive midfielder basically is being played every game, he's not going to get a chance, is he? He's not going to get those chances. So, but when we did play, it was bitty, wasn't it? There's no steady hand. It was a bit. He was trying hard. Of course, he was trying. Perhaps he was trying too hard, and there's too much. I think there's too much pressure on him to come in and sort of play a game. I mean, I haven't got the list here of the games he came on as a sub, as opposed to he very rarely started any games, did he? Let's be honest about it. And we didn't have the games where we could probably start. And even when it got to the FA Cup and stuff like this, Pep, we had some difficult games. We had some difficult opponents last season. So Pep didn't want to, Pep wanted that trophy. You could tell from the start, which he doesn't always do.
Yeah.
And of course, he never got those opportunities. And when he did, he just didn't. He just tried too hard, but but in training as well. He's obviously not been showing stuff in training, because that's where Pep gets to see things we don't. And he never obviously was showing it in training either. So that's probably why Pep didn't trust him too much.
I believe the first league game he started last season.
He had the injury as well, didn't he? That was early doors, wasn't it?
He had the injury, came back to the World Cup, allegedly. Let's get me in, fat, overweight. The first league game he played, he started for City. First league game he started was either the last game of the season or the second to last game of the season once the title was won. That's how little Pep trusted him. So he's going to go. There's obviously rumours abound about where he could go. We know of 3 or 4 clubs that are apparently interested in him. There was interest from Juventus. I don't think that's going to happen, and I'll explain why in a minute. There's apparently interest from Paris Saint-Germain. Bayern Munich might be interested. And the one I thought was most likely at the start was Newcastle. Now, Newcastle have had a terrible run of injuries. Eddie Howe is under incredible pressure. And you might think, how so? How can you be under so much pressure? But it's because of potentially because of the owners. And that's put Eddie under pressure. Maybe they did too well last season because they made it to the Champions League. So I initially thought the Newcastle link was the one that would do it, because, I mean, they're now sitting in 9th place, 11 points off the top 4. It's very unlikely, I believe, that they will get top 4. They've got a ton of injuries. They'd like to get some sort of European football. But even to get European football, they need 5 points to catch West Ham, who are in the Europa League. Brighton in the spot at the moment, and Brighton in the Europa Conference League spot. So they're going to have to pull the finger out to get anywhere. Now, I'm reading that that Newcastle apparently are determined not to be too reactive to their injury issues and stick to long-term plans rather than going for Calvin Phillips. Now,
and they also have to be careful of FFP and stuff, don't they? They got to. They've got to be. The thing is with Calvin Phillips, he's not top notch, is he? We know he's not top notch. He's not proved it at City. He's gone down in estimations from when he was at Leeds and played for England, etc., etc. So, they've got a lot of these players that they've played like 40, 50 million, that aren't really top notch, but they spent a lot of money, and then Calvin Phillips falls into that category. So I think they'd be scared of purchasing Calvin Phillips, I think.
The thing is, when you look at the clubs he's been linked with, okay, there's Juventus one I think he's going to go. It's not going to happen. All right, PSG are a decent sized club, Bayern Munich. Newcastle are going to go places. But then you look at the other clubs, Fulham, Crystal Palace. You ask yourself, what, Manchester United? Why? So it actually feels to me that they're more likely than some of the big ones, some PSGs and Bayern Munich. And I think
Calvin can't risk going to someone like Bayern Munich and PSG
playing
and failing, because that'll ruin his career. He needs to go back and start again.
Mate, he's 28. He's going to have to do something quick, because he needs to be playing in the Euros. So he'll have to start playing some football. Having said that, Southgate does stick by players. But one of the reasons I think the Juventus and some of the other things are not going to happen is apparently City wants £7.5 million on a loan fee for 6 months. That's ridiculous, 6 months. But I think they feel that someone's going to be desperate enough to want him, and Calvin Phillips will be desperate enough to go and get some football because he wants to make sure he's in that Euro squad. So it could be possible that might happen. £7.5 million. It does seem ridiculous, but that's where football is. Now, I've said many times, I want him to go on loan, or either sell him in January or go on loan with an obligation to buy. I don't want him back. I don't want to happen to City what happened last January when Joao Cancelo left on loan and then he came back like a bad smell. Once you're gone, I want you to stay gone. So I want someone to, and I thought initially Newcastle could be that one. I didn't think City would charge as much as that. I thought maybe a 5 million would be what they want and sell him for 40 million. Now, the way I do it, if you want the 7.5 million and you've got an obligation to buy, you say, right, his value is 40 million. You pay 7.5 million in January. When it comes to the summer, you pay the balance in effect, or you do the transfer then. But you do it as a loan now, so that maybe that they can it helps them with FFP. And once this accounting window's closed, then they do the sale in the next accounting period. That helps the buying club. Maybe that's the way City do it. Now, it would probably help City to do it before the transfer, before the accounting deadline, the year-end deadline is for the accounts, because it'll come in as a little profit, because it'll be a small profit. If we can get our money back, we'll get accounting terms, we'll get a small profit. So I'm a bit puzzled whether he's going to go or not. Now, the link with Bayern Munich is a bit tenuous, but I believe, as I said, in the past, I did videos on Wirtz, I did videos on Kimmich. Do you think City would be interested in Joshua Kimmich? Because we haven't replaced Gundogan. I'm not saying Joshua Kimmich is, but he's supposedly a box-to-box. He does stuff in the defensive third and the attacking third as well. We haven't replaced Gundogan. Nunes is hardly getting a look in. I don't want to be in the position where we stockpiling players who are not getting a look in. We're not Manchester United, who've got a lot of players who don't play. So do you think City would be interested in Joshua Kimmich?
Only in the way the Phillips thing is involved. I can't see any other way. And the thing is, he's 29 in February, isn't he, Kimmich?
Yeah.
And it's smacking to me of Pep being prepared to to extend perhaps to a year, do his 10 years, and not worry about City particularly. It just smacks a little bit of not forward planning, because he's still a good player, of course he is. But we've perhaps made not an error, but Kovacic and Nunes have been a bit
below
damn
par,
squibs, haven't they? So I'm just getting a bit worried at the moment, which we're changing tack on what we normally do. And of course, we've had a successful season last season. It just smacks a little bit of panic to me at this point.
Do you think the Nunes one was panic because we couldn't get Paquetá?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we know, as you've said many times, Paquetá was almost over the line, but I mean that's not being sorted anytime soon. So that messed everything up as far as Pep was concerned.
Yeah,
and I think Kimmich is going to be a similar sort of thing. I mean, Pep loves him. He said he wants to come to City, all these sort of things. But I just worry deep down that it's just not panic because he's a good player. But you know what I mean. It's not normal how we do things, and I think we made a bit of a mess last season, even though we had a tremendous season on the pitch. I think our planning was a little bit off, which is unusual. It's left us in a bit of a hole. Yeah. And it just smacks again of trying to fill a bit of a hole in January an error we've made.
I think Joshua Kimmich is very comfortable on the ball, a la Ilkay Gundogan. I think he has played obviously plays in midfield. He's played apparently right back in his career as well. He's got good passing, good crossing, which would be great for Erling Haaland, and he's got a good shot on him.
We'd be foolish not to consider it. Of course we would, but I do worry for the future.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because I look at it and say, okay, if he comes, he's 28. He'll be 29. Let's call him 29 because he'll be 29 next month. Okay. He's still got potentially, you'd think, 3 or 4 years ahead of him. And that, for me, if you think he hasn't dropped off in his levels, he's still very good, because he was there buying with Pep, wasn't he? So Pep's, he's been at Bayern since 2015. So That's it.
If he's being looked at as a Rodri sort of cover as well,
then I'd be interested. If he's looked at,
Rodri's our main. Rodri, Pep thinks he can get. He's not got a player in that team that can cover for Rodri at the moment.
No, we've seen that.
We proved that. He can't mess around. All right, he might do things with Stones and Gvardiol and all this lot.
Not working.
He can't do what he can't. No one can do what Rodri can do. Now, if Rodri's got to be the main man for how old is he now? How old is Rodri?
I don't know, 26, 27.
Yeah. I mean, if he's got to be a main man, and someone like Kimmich is willing to come in and share the burden, and Pep can see him in that sort of role, then you're talking 3 or 4 seasons. Say Pep might be gone in 3 seasons anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. Someone else might have a different point of view. So, but to see Pep through, I can see it. I can see it happening. Just to see Pep out of his tenure, but then obviously we've got to move forward from there. But that's by the by. But let's worry about now, I suppose.
No, I think you're right. You're right, Bernard. You could look at it, and it is a shot. It's not a long-term appointment. It's not. We're used to buying players at the ages of 28, 19, 20, 21, 22, stuff like that. You look at Julian Alvarez, you look at Haaland, Jeremy Doku, just 3. But we do buy older players, Jack, and we spend a lot of money on Jack. We've got Kovacic. He's an older player, although we didn't spend a lot of money on him. He's a lot older. But he's done a lot in his career.
He was a sort of rush job, wasn't he? Again, he was another rush job for me.
But he was cheap. I think that makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking 20 million plus thingy for Kimmich, that might be classed as cheap.
Yeah. 20 million for Kimmich plus Phillips going the other way. Mateus Nunes is only 25. So we're used to getting younger players. Now, it might be that, like you say, we've realised we made a bit of a balls up. We haven't got anybody to cover for Rodri. We didn't get anybody to really cover for Gundogan. Nunes might be that man in the future. But if you want someone for the here and now, Kimmich has got the smarts. He's got the football smarts to be able to, I believe, coming in January, hit the ground running. Phillips is finished at City. So whether he stays or goes, it makes no difference. Pep's, when Rodri was out,
Bayern still play a similar Pep way as well, don't they? They still have that philosophy. So he's grown up with it, hasn't he? From when Pep was under Pep and stuff.
He's been there 7 years. Yeah. So he's had plenty of time. I was just going to say, we noticed when Rodri wasn't there, when Pep decided to play John Stones, Rico Lewis, and I can't remember the third guy, Akanji, as in midfield, we were awful and we lost. Now, I like the idea that if you're in that sticky situation again, you can put Joshua. I mean, he wouldn't even play Calvin Phillips. That's how little Calvin Phillips has got of a future at City. To have someone like Joshua Kimmich instead, I think that makes a massive difference. To have Joshua Kimmich and KDB available in January, wow! And also, this is a weird month because we've got this is unlike other seasons, which So I'm kind of going against what I said earlier that we don't buy in January. This is going against other seasons a little bit because of that winter break. Now, even if we've got that FA Cup game, we're still going to have a bit of a break, and some players will have, possibly now. Some couple of players might be off and not coming back until say Monday or Tuesday. Once the Newcastle game's out of the way, we can do some training. Now, if we did get Kimmich, for instance, he's got a week before the next FA Cup. If we get through, you could chuck him in there, and he'll have some time to train with the lads. This is not a normal January where you're playing games every 3 or 4 days. This is a different kind of January where you've got that that extra time. You've got that extra time between games to do a bit of training. So maybe this is a different January, and it's a different opportunity, and we might take that up. But my third point is going to be Bernard. All right. So that's the deal. That's what the rumor was. Calvin Phillips to Bayern Munich, 20 million to Bayern Munich, Kimmich coming the other way. Where do you see if we were going to buy in January, where do we need players? Where are we desperate for cover? You mentioned Rodri. Yeah. Is there anywhere else that you think we are desperate for cover?
Well, I mean, missing Doku's gives us a problem, hasn't it? Let's be honest about it. But You know, we can't. You just can't. I don't think we've got the ability to cover these things. You've got to rely on. But Pep at some stage has to rely on people like Oscar Bob to come in and do jobs, stuff like that. Defensively, we're fine. There shouldn't be any problem defensively. So it's just really Rod. I mean, for me, it's only Rodri's the problem. Just cover there for Rodders in that defensive midfield element rather than Nunes and Kovacic, who are doing a job, but is it what we really want? I wouldn't worry too much about anything else. Pep set his stall out. We have to accept we're probably not the force we were last season. We're not going to be the force we were last season. Of course, KDB back will be tremendous if we get a full complement of him. You know, we don't end up, fingers crossed, anything happening again to him. It'll be enough to get through, but you know, we're probably going to scrape through certain things, I think.
Yeah, but my point is going to be, come the end of January, you could have KDB back, you could have Doku back, you could have Johnny Stones back, Haaland back. Totally different team. It's a totally different team to what we've got now, you know, and it'll make such a difference. And then, yes, we still need cover for Rodri. But I think if KDB's around, if Doku's around, if Haaland's around, if Johnny Stones is around, hopefully.
Well, KDB's such a player that he makes a difference to Rodri as well, doesn't it? It makes a difference to the pressure on the team because other teams have to take account for KDB. And that sort of relieves a lot of pressure off other players. KDB's there.
Absolutely. It's going to be really, really interesting. We'll try and talk. We will do some videos, or I'll certainly do some videos during the transfer window. But I'm trying not to get caught up in the hyperbole in the made up stuff. It's very. We're all interested in transfers. We all want to see new players come, but we've got to accept that most of them are rubbish. Most of the transfer talk is rubbish. It's just made up, and very little of what we hear and read in the papers, here on the media, on the radio, on the TV, actually happens. It's made up. You know, Calvin Phillips has been linked with 6, 7, 8 clubs in January. Now, if he does leave, he can only go to one. So the other
thing is Calvin Phillips as well. We've known he's been going for a while. There should have been something happening behind the scenes before now.
We got Nunes. I don't know. I mean, we didn't get Lavia back. It's not been the smoothest. Having said that, if you go back 6 months, we were top of the world and we were playing brilliant football. So, you know, we've hardly fallen off a cliff. But I repeat, I think losing senior players, even though most of them weren't playing, was an issue. 3 of them, Laporte, Mahrez, and Gundogan, and losing Gundogan because we've seen he's irreplaceable. There are a few players at City that are irreplaceable, and I think KDB you can't replace like for like, but we've coped reasonably well with that KDB. We haven't coped as well without Gundogan, and I think you know that's something of an issue, and we can't, and we don't cope without Rodri. So we'll see. As I said, we'll try and keep you abreast of what's going on and keep you up to date with anything that looks a reasonable chat and worth discussing. But I just want to make sure that we, as I said, don't get caught up in the hype and just keep it real, keep it honest, because, you know, I don't want to get too excited for nothing or trying to get fans excited for nothing when there's nothing out there. We're not making stories up. And say, you know, someone says, "Oh, Mbappe's coming in January." Well, I'll tell you what, I will not be doing a video on that. I'll not do a video on that, guys. Thank you.
Arsenal, isn't he?
Liverpool, isn't he? He's going Liverpool. Boyhood club, mate. Boyhood club. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Bernard, thank you for your time and your energy, your knowledge, your detailed knowledge, and your inspiration. And guys, thanks for joining us, and keep it here with City Fan TV. If you want to see Bernard's a lot of history stuff on Bernard's channel, the King of Kipak series, ton of history stuff. I tell you what, you could write a book on the stuff Bernard's done on City history. You should do Bernard. But you can go and check Bernard out on the Citizen channel. Guys, take care. We'll see you around Blues.